So here I am in my sketch. I'm going to click on the pencil icon, and it's going to show me all of my sketching tools. So really the first two rows at the top, these are the tools you're going to use the most to sketch. The stuff in the middle we use sometimes, and then the stuff near the bottom, these are all different constraints, which we'll get to in later videos. So in this first video right now, we're going to look at the line tool and the different rectangle tools. So I'm going to choose my line tool. And whenever you sketch on an iPad, what I highly recommend you do is take advantage of their selector. So if you press and hold down, you're going to see a little crosshair, and this is going to determine the first point of your line. Okay, so I'm still pressing down. I decide where I want my line to go. Notice as I move around the origin, you might see some dotted orange lines. All right, so as you sketch, again, you're going to learn more about constraints later on, but as you sketch, it may try to automatically constrain some of your drawing. So for example, if I were to start my line here, that first point is going to be perfectly vertical related to the origin. It's going to sort of lock that into place. If I were to come over here, the start of my line is going to be perfectly horizontal to the origin. Right? So depending if you want a horizontal or vertical relationship, you can do that. I'm just going to sort of start my line over here. So I let go, you can see a little blue circle, that would be my first point. And then if I press and hold down somewhere else, it's going to determine the other endpoint of my line. If I let go, there it is. Now, notice at the top, my line tool is still selected, it's still shaded blue. So each time I press down, it's going to make a new line. And if I want, I can close my shape. And notice that right now, if I put this endpoint on top of the other endpoint, I see a little orange box going around it. So that's applying a different constraint. It's called a coincident constraint. It's essentially saying that those 2 points are perfectly lined up with each other. And then notice now that shape that I created turned gray. So that means it's an enclosed shape. So again, every time I press down again, it's going to sort of add on another part of the line. One thing I also want to point out is if I start a new line, if I draw a line like this, again, if I click again, it's going to sort of add on to that. If I double tap with one finger, like so, I can now sort of make a new line segment. Right? Double tap, so on and so on. And again, if I don't double tap, it's just going to sort of continue drawing line after line. So that's your line tool. Pretty basic. I'm just going to hit the back arrow to undo what I've done so far. And next, I'm going to click my pencil icon again. We have two different rectangles. So you have a corner rectangle and a center point rectangle. For the corner rectangle, the way it works is you go into click twice. The first time, again, I'm going to press and hold down and get my little crosshairs. The first time you click will be one corner of your rectangle. So I'll let go. I can then click down again and drag, and this second point will be the opposite corner of my rectangle. All right? So you can decide what that's going to look like. Again, later on you'll be adding measurements, they're called dimensions. So it doesn't need to be perfect. So what I can do now real quick is I'm going to unselect my rectangle tool. And notice now, if I were to select, say, the bottom line, I can drag this up and down. All right, so you can always go back and adjust it. I'll double tap to unselect that. Now I'm going to select a corner point. I can sort of change this as well. All right, so notice that everything right now, all the lines are blue. If they're blue, that means they're undefined. So you can move them around as needed. So if you ever want to delete things, so I'm going to delete my rectangle. I'm going to click on all four of those lines. With 2 fingers, I'm going to tap the screen to pull up that context menu. And I'm going to click the very bottom option that says delete. I'm going to delete my rectangle. The center point rectangle is another way of doing rectangles. This is actually the one that I prefer to use the most. So for this one, again, you're going to be clicking twice. The first one determines the center point of your rectangle. Then the second click will determine how big the rectangle is. So for this one, my center point, I'm actually going to make it lined up. So again, that's coincidence with the origin. And then I'm going to let go, then I'm going to click again. And if I drag up and down, I can determine the height. If I drag left and right, I determine the width. And basically decide where you want your rectangle to be. Now, notice that I made the center point of mine coincident with the origin. So you'll learn more about this later on, but it's highly recommended when you sketch. You always want to tie your sketch to the origin in some way. Either you want the origin to be the middle part of your model, or maybe you want like the corner to be lined up with the origin. But it really does help sort of tie your design somewhere in that 3D space. All right, so again, that's the line tool, that's the corner rectangle, and that is the center point rectangle. Thank you.